I was given my first Meccano set at the age of about 5. It wasn't actually made by Meccano, it was some sort of clone, and later on I realised that because actually the nuts and bolts were different to those supplied by Meccano. Anyway, I was hooked, and for the next 25 years or so, Meccano was my main hobby. Meccano used to produce very comprehensive books of instructions as to how to build models, and also produced a series of what they called supermodels. However, it wasn't many years before, to my eye at least, the basic Meccano models and even the supermodels looked a bit too basic for me. I only stopped when one day I realised I was drilling more holes in the Meccano than Frank Hornby, the originator, ever put there. And then at that point I bought a small lathe. The attraction for me was that you could make things that actually moved and did something. So I was heavily into making things like cranes, walking drag lines, and in the later years, vehicles. Another key requirement was that it had to look jolly complicated, even if in mechanical terms it really wasn't. I became really fascinated by heavy prime mover sort of vehicles with all-wheel drive and lots of suspension travel. All my later models were powered by a 240 volt motor taken from an old sewing machine I acquired somewhere with some fairly do-it-yourself and horrendous electrics. These days the health and safety police would have total heart failure, but 70 odd years later I'm still here. This is the only piece of film I've got about the models I used to make, and it was taken on a very cheap, very second-hand Super 8 camera. The film shows the last model I ever made, and following this one I took up the lathe. This model was powered by the sewing machine, 230 volt sewing machine motor running at about 4,300 revs per minute and controlled by a home built by me lethal 53 watt thyristor speed controller. The model had a 6-speed automatic gearbox with a centrifugal type clutch mechanism to engage the drive from the motor, and there was also a 2-to-1 kind of splitter arrangement in the gearbox which gave a range of 12 forward and 12 equal reverse speeds. Crucial to me that the model did what I thought it was supposed to, and these early clips just show the motor trundling over some rough ground to test the chassis and the gearbox and the mechanical working. The hesitancy you sometimes see in the vehicle travel is a function of the automatic gearbox selecting a different ratio. A bit later on I added some bodywork and a winch to the rear of the vehicle and a towing hitch and some working lights, which you'll see a bit later on in this short film. These are a couple of pictures of the early chassis development. A vehicle of this type obviously had to have a trailer, so I built one. Daniel's plastic push-along toy truck being towed onto the trailer by the onboard winch contained in the tractor unit. Although very slow because of the gearing, the unit was actually unstoppable, and it relied on the centrifugal clutch to slip to prevent stripping of the gear teeth, etc, etc. For rough going, the rear of the trailer could be elevated using a screw arrangement and an electric motor built into the base of the trailer. The film quality is quite poor, but hopefully you can just about see the trailer slowly being raised over its rear wheels. Whatever you do, don't put your fingers inside the unprotected 230 volt control box. In 1978 I began to feel really frustrated with all the holes in Meccano. I started to build a cab for the lorry out of an old biscuit tin. I bought a small lathe which I mounted on an old wooden tea trolley, and the 230 volt motor out of the model was used to drive the lathe at far too fast a speed, I now realise. A change of job meant the house move was in order, and the Meccano set and all the bits and pieces have been confined to the loft since 1980. The remnants of the model have been recovered from the loft to conclude this video, and this is all that remains. So there we have it. I know there are lots of Meccano enthusiasts to this day. Sadly, I'm no longer one of them, but I still have all my bits and pieces which will be passed on when I'm no longer with them. I hope you've enjoyed watching this short video, and it may even have kindled one or two memories from the past for some of us. If you like this video, please check my channel out, Edwin White, for other videos, mostly on non-related, in fact all of them on non-related Meccano stuff. Thank you very much for watching.